Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Emerging Screenwriters interview series. Today, I am here with writer and my friend, AJ Bermudez. Hi.
What's up, Shayna? I'm so happy to be with you.
I know. I feel like we're recording this, but it's really just like a catch-up chat.
It's just like people voyeuristically experiencing a hangout, is what I feel
Right.
like.
I know. Welcome to our hangout, people. And I will ask you questions that I've been dying to ask you, and we'll start with some easy ones though, some
Okay.
fun ones. What are you watching right now? What like movies, TV shows are you into?
Yes, great question. I am watching the most current season of Party Down. Have you
Mhm.
watched it yet?
Yep, I used to be a big fan of Party Down.
Yeah, same. I was pretty delighted and mind blown when they came back. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Is it good? Is the new one good?
It's pretty great. Yeah, you
Good.
you haven't seen the most current
I
season.
haven't seen it. No. I was
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, when I'm having one of those days, I'll probably turn it on, but I haven't yet. So
To me, that show is like, I don't know if there's a show that gets LA better than that show.
totally. Yeah, that is a good call. And
Highly
if you
recommend.
watch it with that kind of lens, then it's way funnier.
I'm sure it's funny if you are not from LA, but if you live in LA, it's pretty fucking funny.
I can't wait to watch the new ones. Awesome. What else are you watching?
Yeah, I mean, not as much as I should be right now. I'm like reading a lot, but
Oh, okay. What are you reading?
I'm reading Tolstoy's Childhood, Boyhood, Youth.
Okay.
I'm reading Artificial Whiteness, which is pretty great. It's about AI and it's about I don't know, intersections of class and race and technology, and it's pretty dope. And I'm thoroughly rereading Fez d'une Drogue, which is the first, my French accent's terrible, but it's the first thing that I'm translating as a full book by the very, very brilliant author Naima Labil Tagamouati, who's a Moroccan author that I met last year when I was working on a film project in North Africa. And so
Wow.
yeah, I've got a deep deck of prose, and when I
Thank
get
you.
through
It's just some light reading over there.
light, just light, nothing but light reading at Shaver Movies.
I love that. We haven't talked to anybody about what they're reading. I have to like now I'm gonna have to shift my perspective and be like, wait, what are you watching or reading? Because that's so important. Like this is
Yeah,
a vital part of being a writer is reading.
it's true.
Hello.
Facts.
And okay, so let's talk about your heroes in the industry. Authors, we'll even add that in there. Who are your heroes? Who would you die to work with, or collaborate with?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I mean, I feel like increasingly my heroes in the industry are people that I actually know and have interacted with or maybe worked with who are just good people, who are just people who are making it happen, who are setting a good tone on set, who are being kind and generous and creating opportunities for others. And obviously, I mean, I love big level creators who are just making amazing work. I mean, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is someone I really love and admire. Um, I I've been revisiting the show Rami also recently,
Mm.
which is a show that I love. I'm loving Atlanta is another one of those like sort of can't miss shows for me, and I guess I love when people are sort of putting it on the line in a new way and maybe bringing important and often underrepresented visions of the world or different worlds to broader communities.
Right. And it's such a big shift currently in that direction. It can be overwhelming because there are so many great things to watch. It's like,
Totally.
I don't have time for all of this.
Absolutely. Find a book. It's so much safer.
I don't have time to read. I read one page and I'm like,
No, I know.
that's how I
No.
am now. It's so bad.
No, don't tell books, but TV is better.
No, I love books though, but man, it's so hard for me to read now. I'm like, oh, I have to retrain my brain, I think, to not be like, oh, okay, I'm falling asleep. Because
We should have like a book club.
I would love it. It would force me. I'm a deadliner, so if I have
Hmm.
a deadline, I'll
Hmm.
do it.
Same.
Okay, so let's talk about you and we like to do this part of the interview called the origin story. So this is sort of the origin story into storytelling of when that bug bit you, when you kind of realized that this was the path you wanted to take.
I've been writing like a lot of writers for a very long time, in kind of a lot of genres, I would say. I have always enjoyed literary writing, short story writing, fiction, nonfiction. My first book just came out recently, and is doing okay. I came to screenwriting, I feel like a little bit late on the heels of playwriting. But I really believe in cross-disciplinary writing. I think that those things can really feed each other, and that a story will sort of guide you to what it wants to be. And sometimes that's a short film, sometimes that's a feature, sometimes that's, you know, a huge project, sometimes it's you know, prose, sometimes it's poetry. I'm not a poet, but you know, I think that, yeah, I think that my experience has really just been loving the written word and the performed word,
Mhm.
and to get to participate that as a collaborator in various capacities and to be a creator in that space has really been an honor in many genres.
So what age were you when you wrote your first screenplay?
My first screenplay, that's a good question. Are you familiar with this super, I don't want to date myself. It was old for me, so maybe I'm not dating myself. Are you familiar with the software Opening Night?
No.
Okay, so I was living in,
But what a lovely name.
we'll just call it a middle of nowhere type town for about a year. And in the public library, they had a really old timey software for the very old timey computers called Opening Night. And basically you can you can write lines for these little jilted avatar characters, and they like say them in like robotic voices. There's like robot male, robot female, robot British male, robot British female, and it's sort of fantastic. And they'll like sort of jolt across the stage and like do little gestures and stuff. And it was so fun. I loved reading plays since I was really small. Like I don't know, like somebody just gave me like the complete works when I was like way too young, like a complete works of Shakespeare when I was like way too young for that sort of thing. And I just I loved plays.
Mm.
And I was also kind of a bossy kid. So when I was, I don't know, maybe like 8, I was at the public library doing the Opening Night software and just like hunching over this ancient computer, just like re-upping
Like
my
it's
time on this.
really big.
So exactly right, just like horrifying, so like so anachronistic even for the time. And, um yeah, and I was like, oh, it's so much fun to um write things and then see them done, like to
Right.
see them come to life in one way or another, even digitally. uh and so yeah, that really scratched an itch for me. I had loved writing like little stories already. um I would do like books where you like fold the paper in half and illustrate the cover and, you know,
Like,
sell it to your parents. But I didn't know what a treat it would be to like write things and then have them performed.
right.
And it really blew my mind. So anyway, when I got a little older into my late teens, I started playwriting, and then when I moved to LA, I started screenwriting.
What was your first script called that you wrote? Do you remember the title?
Definitely I don't remember the first Opening Night software title. It sounds like I'm in the pocket of this terrible software.
I think you should I think it's like bringing it back. I think we should need to all Google opening night and it's going to be like
Totally.
Oregon Trail where we just bring it back.
It was definitely Oregon Trail
Itinerary.
for nerds. I'm also an Oregon Trail nerd.
Totally.
At one point, I think I was nationally ranked Oregon Trail wise, but
Really?
I fucking love Oregon Trail.
Oh
It's just so
God.
great.
It is. It really, really is. If you weren't part of that, you really missed out.
Yeah, totally. But anyway, but this was sort of an equally you know, visually nascent and wonderful software that yeah, we should all try to bring back. Although add the caveat that I'm sure it's incredibly problematic
Sure.
in every way.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, what was the first? So the first real script that I wrote and had produced was called Duel, and that was in Chicago, and that was a play that I wrote and directed, and in a way was how I got into screenwriting,
Mm.
um, because it was a play that a mentor saw, liked, and advised me was more like a film script
Mm.
than a play script. Short scenes, lots of violence. Just maybe you should write movies instead.
I know that you're in a lot of different mediums of writing, but when it comes to screenwriting or playwriting, do you have any specific like themes that you're always, exploring, or is there a genre that you really love? Sort of like when you talk about your voice or your brand, how would you describe that?
Yeah, I think I'm often writing stories that are about underdogs,
Mhm.
and I'm often writing stories about characters that have a foot in more than one world or in competing worlds. Often my stories end up gravitating toward questions of power and questions of privilege. I really do love stories where the best of humanity and the worst of humanity are sort of placed against each other, and also kind of are the same thing, kind of are the obverse of um, the same coin. So yeah, I think that's a kind of through line. Yeah, I love when people sort of um, transform. Yeah.
Mhm. I can see that. That was a very good description. That very much describes what I know about you. Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about what you're doing now. What are you working on now? Let's talk about your book that just came out. Tell me what you're doing. What's up?
Yeah, I keep forgetting that this is Zoom, so I held up so many books earlier. I could
Yeah.
hold up this book as well, if anyone is interested. Yeah, I'm very proud of my first book, which was published through University of Iowa Press just late last year. It's called Stories No One Hopes Are About Them. It also was just listed as a finalist for a Lambda Award, which is my favorite award. I'm really excited about that. Yeah, anyone who has seen anything I've done film wise will not be shocked by this collection. I think that my writing is my writing across genres for sure. So that's the short story of the book, um, and yeah, very much encourage listeners to check it out if they're into that sort of thing, reading. Um, and and then film wise, I'm so excited. I'm working with Kyle Hosman Stokes, who's a really, really gifted director and writer. He and I worked together co-writing a feature that is going to shoot later this year.
Yay.
That I'm very very thrilled about. It's a really beautiful story. Very dark, very funny, with some really, really wonderful elements. I don't want to give too much away, but it's a really special project, and I'm so excited about it. It's called My Dead Friend Zoe,
Mhm.
um, and I will hopefully be able to share more soon. But it's
Yay.
yeah, and actually, this is funny. So I don't know if we're gonna get into the whole ISA thing, but uh, the ISA originally introduced me to this wonderful producer, Liz Manischel, who does Making Movies is Hard. And then she introduced me to Kyle. She's a co-producer on this movie. And it's a ISA network indeed.
Nice. That's amazing. Let's talk about ISA and kind of how you became involved.
Yeah, I think the ISA probably first came on my radar, probably through word of mouth. But my first meaningful interaction with the ISA was through a competition entry. And then it was kind of off to the races. We did, the Shoot Your Sizzle thing.
Right. So you
Yeah.
won the Shoot Your Sizzle competition
Mhm,
for your pilot script called Nightingale,
mhm.
right? And then
Yes.
we went and shot that.
Some of it in your garage even.
I know, in my garage. I think of it often. And yeah, which was amazing. And
It was amazing. It was so incredible. And John was so, he was so great. I think about John, like,
oh, I'll tell him.
please do.
I
Tell
will.
him I said hello. He was just a treat. I
John,
remember the day, do you remember this? He was like, I mean, he has like an Emmy and shit. Like he's just incredible. And he was, at the end of the day, he's like holding a bounce board up.
you know,
Like he's not, I mean, like it just, that's the kind of person you want on a set. Like I almost cried. He's just a good guy. Yeah.
no. So if you want to know who we're talking about, John Goodwin. Hello, John.
Yes.
He is a and I have to say this, I had no idea how like famous he was in that world. He's a special effects makeup extraordinaire guy who's done a ton of things, but we went to Monster Palooza with him and people were like, John Goodwin, oh my God.
The thing.
I know.
He's done a ton of things. He's done the thing.
Yeah, he's epic. So he came on board to help us with the blood, and and he did obviously held up a whatever he was needed for. Amazing.
It's so wild. But yeah, also the gunshot looked just,
I know.
yeah, he's a treasure. Please tell him I said so.
Look, I'm gonna tell him. I will chat with him, and I need to chat with him soon. Okay, so speaking of contests, you won the ISA Shoot Your Sizzle. What other big contest did you win in the past?
This feels like a leading question.
How has that helped you?
Yeah, so I won the are you asking about maybe the Page Award? Yeah, that was pretty righteous as well. Yeah, so the Page Award is also just populated by like just great folks, just great people. I feel like I've said this in other interviews, maybe not with the ISA, but films and awards are really dependent on the people involved. And I have been extremely fortunate in really kind of only entering and interacting with people from like really, really good ones, like really just like kind, good folks. The Diverse Voices Award through We Screenplay was another one. That was The Face of the Earth, which was a feature I wrote a couple years ago. Had won that, and then Icon won the Page Award last year, and doing Nightingale, which is still just one of my favorite projects of all time, with the ISA. It's like it's been such a gift to work with good people who are actually interested in championing writers and making the industry a better, more uplifting place and generating opportunities for people. And yeah, I'm the first to admit that I've had that kind of charmed experience, but that it's really been a gift to meet people, and very much in the ISA, that really are just above and beyond devoted to championing writers. It's really special.
It's one thing that I really love about you, because I think that when first impression of meeting you, you're very smart, very intellectual, and you're absolutely stunning. So it can be intimidating, but you are probably one of the kindest, most thoughtful people that I've met, and that's who I gravitate towards, is that kindness also. So to hear you talking so much of just about kindness and caring and like wanting to do good for writers and the projects themselves, it makes me remember why I adore you so much. So
That's extremely sweet. I'm not gonna cry during an interview, but that's really sweet.
oh, geez, that's what we hope for.
Just slowly slump out of frame. No, I mean I feel the same way, honestly. I mean, like one of the treats of working with the ISA on the Shoot Your Sizzle thing was just like, well, I don't know, like we need these things, and I mean, you, for example, were literally like, come shoot in my garage. We can make it an operating room, and let me introduce you to people. And there are other people on the team that are that way. Like that is how they are wired. And I don't know. There's something that's really, really special about film and TV that for writers, I think is an opportunity to like create community and engage in community. I love literary writing. I love it so much. But it can be hard sometimes to like to create or to engage in a sense of community. And film and TV is just like, yeah, like let's be best friends and hang out all night and make something weird and like
Right.
see what we can like do for each other. And it gets pretty fun. Like it is kind of at its best an industry that is an invitation to being generous and collaborative. And I
And you
really
come
love
in
that
with
about
that
it.
kind of attitude and that sense of community and that collaboration. It's when the magic, it's when the weirdness happens, it's when the great things come out
Yeah.
of it. And you're just energized for the next and to bring that to the next project. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, same.
Um, let's talk about your writing process itself. Are you somebody who extensively outlines? Do you have a schedule for yourself when you sit down, either when you're writing book or scripts? Like, what is your process? What are your rules that you set for yourself?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I've become kind of a hardcore outliner,
Mhm.
partly by necessity, just having been hired on projects where it's very necessary. Like you have to sort of prove, what you're up to, or a production team like needs it. But I have found through some of those requirements that outlining is tremendously helpful to me. I won't reverse camera you, but like if you could see my home office wall, like it is just a swath of color coded index cards.
Right.
um, and I love a good spreadsheet that's color coded to match. I nerd out pretty hard on the prep. But I think my process is sounds so pretentious to say my process. Anyway, my process, pretense aside, is very much to outline really hardcore, but still try to leave room for creativity and possibility, like to be surprised. Because I think you do get surprised in the writing process, and you have to adapt. But I think I've become a bit of a proselyte for outlining.
And do you write every day? Are you somebody who's like, I have to write every day or I'll kind of lose that focus? Or are you more sort of sporadic, kind of all over the place writer?
I try not to be sporadic all over the place, although it happens from time to time. Uh, I do try to write every day, and usually give myself a day of the week off, um, if I need it. Sometimes you're cooking and you just want to keep going, and that's awesome too. But yeah, no, I try to set aside dedicated time for writing, every day, or at least 6 or 7.
What are your big goals in terms of writing? Are you going to continue writing novels, short stories? Are you do you have this script that's filming? Like, are you just like, I want to do all of them? Or is there one top goal that you're like, that's for me, you know, the Everest?
I am young and hungry, and I kind of want everything,
Yeah.
to be honest. But yeah, I'm working on my first novel now, and it's a project I'm really excited about. That's what most of the index cards are right now. But and I'm close to being on the way with my second short story collection. But I'm also really close on a couple of feature projects.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I like having a lot of irons in the fire. I know not everyone is geared that way. I attended a talk last night, with Sigrid Nunes, who is an author I really, really admire. And she was introduced by Hajin, another author I really, really admire, as being very, very, very brilliant and single-minded in her focus, on novel writing. Like that, she is a single-mindedly focused writer in this particular space. And I feel a single-minded focus as a writer, but I don't feel it uh, for just one area of writing. And I like other. I mean, I also really I love directing. I love different kinds of creative projects. So without being too distractible, I think I am going to try to. I think I'm going to try to continue screenwriting successfully and also literary writing successfully, and see how we do.
I've written I've sort of taken a script that I wrote that's a fantasy
Yeah.
script and translated it onto the page in
Oh,
novel.
awesome.
And there's something really freeing about being able to write how somebody feels and thinks. That's
Cool.
just
Yeah.
a totally different, like, wait, what? I can just write how they feel. What is happening? Without proving it and showing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can tell you, like, there's something amazing. And I hope that I can sit down and finish that novel itself. But
I hope you
yeah,
do
there's
too.
just something cathartic about having a little bit more freedom in that sense, that is just sort of like out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what? Oh yes, this is amazing. I've waited to be able to tell how they feel.
You are so right. And I do think prose offers two strengths if you want them, which are interiority and everything is free. So if you want to write a space fight, it costs exactly the same as someone washing the dishes if it's in a novel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you don't have to. I do struggle with that sometimes when I don't know, my proclivity is very much toward writing expensive screenplays.
Right.
They're really expensive. You've read them. And, it's so nice. There is something really special about, not only what's in someone's head, but also like, oh yeah, if you want to like flood an airport with fluff, like it costs the same as going on a walk.
Having a one location in a bedroom. Yeah.
Totally.
Hilarious. All right, so let's get to the end of this. What is the best advice you've ever received, or what advice would you give your younger self or to younger emerging writers who are coming up?
I love this question so much. I also have to be honest, I don't feel like I'm qualified to give advice, maybe including to my younger self.
That's probably why you should be giving advice, because you're not the loudest person in the room who's screaming, this is what you do. Those are the people we actually should probably be listening to, are the ones who are like, well, I'm not qualified.
So people are like, oh, I got some advice. Yeah, I wonder what advice my younger self would like give me, because sometimes I feel like
that's interesting. I love that angle.
I feel like I need to have more fun sometimes, I feel like, like I kind of feel like my younger self was doing okay. Like I think my younger self might tell me, hey, just remember to have fun and just be good to people and, try to do a good job. And I think that's maybe sufficient advice.
I love that. I love the reverse advice. Now I'm really going to think about that. Like, what would my younger self say to me?
What do you think she would?
I think she would say, you're cooler than you think you are, in a sense. And I don't know. I feel like maybe she's like, I love that you're doing it. So just keep going, because you're already there. So you just have to keep going.
Yeah, I do think, I don't know about your younger self, but I feel like maybe our younger selves would also just be like, wow.
Yeah.
You've done, look at all this cool stuff you've done.
Yeah.
And that sounds nice.
Yeah, that does sound nice. I love that. Let's end on that note, except this is a good one for you. I do want to ask you these two fun questions that are silly. So we'll end with the silly. What's your favorite word?
Pulchritudinous.
I had no doubt you would have what does that mean? I have no idea. I've never heard that word.
It just means beautiful. It's just a super pretentious way of saying pretty.
Say it again. What's the word?
Pulchritudinous.
Pulchritudinous? Mm-hmm. Love it. There you go, people. And then what grammatical or spelling error most annoys you, drives you crazy, either that you see or that you do yourself?
Misuse of em dashes.
Do you do it, or do you see it and you're just like,
oh, I see it. I live to enforce the proper use of the em dash.
I love it.
There are things I do that are a mistake, but
Sure.
my bête noire is the misuse of the M dash.
Yes, if I had a mission in the world, it would be to correct people when they say further versus farther.
Oh my God,
And
so wrong.
I'm like on TV shows, like reality shows, or when they're like just a little bit further down the road, I'm like farther.
Yeah. That's why we hate watch reality TV, right? Because of the grammar.
Oh, and it's like host copy, and I'm like, the host is saying this. They read it on the
No,
paper.
someone wrote this. Yeah.
Somebody wrote this. Stop it. Let's So when somebody says it correctly in the correct way, I'm like, yes.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're definitely on the right side of grammatical history, Shayna.
Oh, I make my share of mistakes. Trust me. I'm probably like an over comma user.
Yeah, interesting. But
Oh,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Are there
I
too many
like those
kinds? I
dramatic
mean,
pauses.
do you
Huh?
do a lot of ellipses in your writing or no?
No.
Yeah, no, me neither. Yeah, I feel like commas are like a soft ellipses sometimes.
Sure. It's the soft, the gateway.
Yeah.
All right. I think we are going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much, AJ, for chatting today. And if you would like to see more of these interviews, go to the Emerging Screenwriters interview series.